It's beyond frustrating. It's a tragedy.
This former legislator says Georgia's justice system is failing and innocent people are paying the ultimate price. She wrote the law to get old evidence tested for DNA years after someone had been convicted in hopes of finding the truth. But investigative reporter Jody Fleischer with us live from the state capitol with why that law is still falling short.
Justin, that former legislator told me she knew this was going to be a problem back when she wrote Georgia's DNA law, and she tried to fix it, but she says prosecutors fought it. Now, the law helps defendants get the DNA to show they're innocent, but can still deny them the new trial to prove it.
I think about Sonny all the time. He's missed a lot of his life.
Keisha Pitts wasn't particularly close with Sonny Baradia when he went to prison 15 years ago, but she is one of the most important people in his life today.
I told the truth as I knew it to be.
Keisha was an alibi witness who said Baradia could not possibly have broken into this Savannah apartment or assaulted the young woman who walked in on the burglary. Keisha saw Baradia here in Atlanta.
So I'm like 100% sure if it happened that weekend that he couldn't have done it.
Baradia had fixed her van that Saturday morning.
I'm not Harry.
He took her kids to see a Harry Potter movie at the Starlight Theater. Sunday morning, he was back to borrow her husband's tools, returning them by sundown. Driving to Savannah and back in between would have been impossible.
There's an innocent man sitting in prison for a crime he didn't commit.
No physical evidence tied Baradia to the crime. The jury convicted him based on the victim's ID, even though she was blindfolded most of the time. Sterling Flint also testified the career burglar was caught with the victim's belongings, including these gloves, which she said her attacker had worn.
I am sure that Mr. Flint was trying to think of how he was going to get out from under this crime.
Flint told the jury he was just holding the items for Baradia, whose attorney never thought to test for DNA. When the Georgia Innocence Project did a decade later, the only skin cells inside those gloves matched to Sterling Flint.
It's horrendous. It's astounding.
Steve Cole has researched eyewitness identification for nearly 40 years. He says the victim was highly stressed, identifying someone of another race, and didn't make the ID until 10 days after the crime. Plus, police lost the lineup before trial.
Any one of these factors that we're talking about can significantly decrease the likelihood of an accurate identification.
Of more than 300 inmates later cleared by DNA, 75% had been wrongly identified by eyewitnesses.
It is staggering. By far, the most unreliable kinds of evidence are those of eyewitness identification.
But the courts keep denying Baradia's requests for a new trial.
It's a tragedy.
Stephanie Stuckey-Benfield drafted Georgia's DNA statute and intended for defendants who get DNA that could clear them to also get a new trial.
What's the point of doing testing if you can't get it back in front of the court?
She says prosecutors and victims groups fought a mandate for new trial, so she passed what she could.
It's a breakdown in the system, and I think it's something that should be corrected by the legislative body.
Keisha hopes her friend's case will convince them to listen to the DNA.
How come the same thing that can incriminate you can't clear you?
Georgia's Department of Corrections denied our repeated request to do an interview with Sonny Baradia. They wouldn't let us visit with him. They wouldn't even let him call us on the phone. Now, he is serving life in prison without the possibility of parole. He has one last-ditch hearing coming up later this summer.
Now, Jody, what about the other man, Flint? What's he doing now?
Well, he's out on parole for a string of more recent burglaries, and he's living here in Atlanta. We were able to reach him by phone, and he told us he did not want to make any sort of comment about this case.
All right, Channel 2's Jody Fleischer in downtown.